Brooklyn, New York, October 13th, 2021. Early evening. The apartment complex was silent. Ordinary. A thin autumn light clung to the windows. Then it happened. A scream tore through the hallway. Shrill. Terrified. Followed by a rapid volley of gunshots that cracked like thunder trapped in a tunnel. Neighbors froze. Someone dialed 911 to be why the time patrol cars screeched to a stop outside. Sirens still wailing. A young woman stepped out through the building's front door. Her face was a mask. Blank, detached. She spoke with a chilling calm. "I've shot them all. The gun's inside." For a heartbeat, the officers hesitated. Then training took over. They raised their weapons and rushed inside. The scene waiting for them was grisly. In the living room, a woman lay sprawled on her back in a widening pool of blood. Multiple bullet wounds punctured her chest and torso. Her breaths were shallow, fading. In the bedroom, another young woman was collapsed on the floor, blood soaking through her shirt. A single round had torn through her abdomen. She was still conscious, barely, whispering for help. Paramedics swarmed the apartment, performing CPR on the woman in the living room, pressing down on wounds, trying to restart a failing heartbeat. Another team tended to the second victim, stabilizing her breathing, wrapping gauze around her injury. Both women were lifted onto stretchers, rushed down the stairs, and loaded into ambulances. With police cars clearing the way, the ambulances sped toward the nearest hospital. The woman who had confessed stood quietly as officers snapped handcuffs around her wrists. She didn't resist, didn't panic. Her eerie composure stood in stark contrast to the carnage inside. Jamie Leong was 24, born in 1997, a native New Yorker and a proud Chinese American. She had been raised in a loving household. Her parents adored her, called her their pride and joy. Bright, diligent, always curious, Jamie excelled in school and dreamed early on of becoming a dentist, someone who could give people back their health and their smiles. After graduating high school with stellar grades, she earned a place at New York University's College of Dentistry, one of the most prestigious programs in the country. Even as her coursework grew demanding, Jamie remained cheerful, kind, and optimistic. Friends, classmates, professors, they all admired her to her parents. She was a devoted and thoughtful daughter. To her friends, she was the kind of person whose laughter could light up a room, whose optimism could lift even the darkest mood. 2021. She was a senior, approaching the finish line of her studies. Graduation was set for spring 2022. A bright future was within reach, but none of them could foresee the shadow creeping closer. A violent twist of fate about to shatter everything. At 5:10 p.m. on October 13th, 2021. New York City's 911 dispatch center received a frantic call. On the line was a woman's trembling voice, terrified, panicked, shouting that she'd been shot at inside an apartment. Through the phone, the dispatcher could hear another voice in the background, a furious woman yelling, "I told you, don't push me. This is what you deserve." The words were venomous, sharp. The dispatcher felt dread crawl up their spine. Almost simultaneously, more calls flooded in. Neighbors reporting horrifying screams and multiple gunshots from an apartment near 79th Street and 19th Avenue in Brooklyn. Realizing this was likely an active shooting, dispatchers escalated the call, sending patrol units and EMTs racing toward the scene. Within 5 minutes, officers and paramedics arrived. Just as they prepared to enter, a young woman walked out the front door, calm, composed, almost serene. She looked one of the officers in the eye and said flatly, "I shot them, both of them. The gun's inside." Her voice didn't waver. The officers were stunned for a heartbeat, then stormed in to find the carnage described earlier. Blood on the carpet, 2 young women down. Later, Authorities confirmed the victims' identities: Jamie Leong, 24, and Jenny Lee, 23. Jamie's injuries were devastating. Multiple gunshot wounds to her chest and upper body. Despite frantic efforts at the hospital, she was pronounced dead 50 minutes after arrival. Her promising life ended before it had truly begun. Jenny was luckier. The bullet had torn through her torso, but after emergency surgery and intensive care, she survived. She remained hospitalized under observation. Her condition stabilized. Police quickly identified the shooter, Yvonne Wu, 31, an off-duty NYPD officer assigned to the 72nd Precinct in Brooklyn, who lived only about 4 miles from the crime scene. At the time of the attack, she was off-duty, dressed in plain clothes, and carried her service weapon. She offered no resistance during her arrest. During initial questioning, she spoke with a disturbing calm, acknowledging what she had done without hesitation, as if the events had been inevitable. Investigators pieced together Yvonne's background. Born in 1986, raised in New York, she grew up within a traditional Chinese-American household and community. She joined the NYPD in 2016, serving nearly 5 years without major incident. Her performance was described as average, neither a standout officer nor a troublemaker. She had made around 60 arrests, handled multiple cases, and kept her record clean. But beneath the quiet, professional exterior, her personal life was turbulent. Through interviews with friends and social contacts, police learned that Jenny Lee and Jamie Leong were in a romantic relationship, and that Yvonne Wu was Jenny's ex-girlfriend. Wu and Jenny had dated for over 2 years and even lived together in Bay Ridge. Friends said the relationship had once seemed stable, but tensions built over time. Wu's jealousy was notorious. She was controlling, possessive, and frequently checked Jenny's whereabouts and messages. Jenny confided to friends that she felt suffocated. About a month before the shooting, Jenny ended the relationship and moved back in with her family in Brooklyn. Wu, however, moved to a place only 8 blocks away, close enough to keep watch. She refused to return Jenny's apartment keys, occasionally let herself in, and even stayed overnight, desperate to hold on to what was already gone. Jenny had begun to feel hunted, telling friends she felt watched, stalked. She even described Wu's behavior as crazy. Friends warned her to be careful, even suggested she go to the police. Jenny didn't. Police investigators concluded that jealousy and emotional instability were the driving forces behind the shooting. Jenny's new relationship with Jamie had been a final provocation, a spark that ignited Wu's festering anger. On October 13th, Wu allegedly used the key she had never returned to enter Jenny's apartment ahead of time. She waited in silence, patient, prepared. When Jenny and Jamie returned home, Wu ambushed them. Crime scene technicians recovered 6 shell casings. Jamie had been shot 3 times in the chest and upper body. Jenny had taken 1 round to the torso. 2 other bullets lodged in the apartment walls. The weapon, Wu's own NYPD-issued service pistol. To detectives, the evidence screamed premeditation. 2 days later, October 15, 2021, Wu was escorted in handcuffs to Brooklyn Criminal Court for her first appearance before a judge. Prosecutors charged her with second-degree murder and attempted murder. Though she had confessed during police questioning, Wu pled not guilty in court. The case was transferred to Brooklyn Supreme Court for further proceedings. Over the following months and years, Wu's defense attorney sought to build a case around her mental state, suggesting emotional disturbance, implying she had acted under extreme distress rather than cold calculation. Prosecutors countered that her actions, entering the apartment with a gun, waiting for her targets, firing multiple rounds, proved forethought and planning. This wasn't a crime of passion, one investigator said later. It was a planned execution. The legal battle dragged on for nearly 3 years. Finally, on June 24, 2024, Wu accepted a plea deal. She admitted to first-degree manslaughter and second-degree attempted murder, abandoning the insanity defense. On August 28, 2024, Brooklyn's Supreme Court handed down its sentence. 22 years in prison for first-degree manslaughter, 5 years for second-degree attempted murder, a total of 27 years behind bars, with no chance of parole before that term is served. Prosecutors later revealed that Wu's initial refusal to plead guilty had been strategic. As a police officer, she understood the justice system. Stalling could buy her time and leverage. By delaying, her attorney used claims of emotional disturbance to negotiate a lighter sentence, sparing her from a potential life term or life without parole. On sentencing day, Jamie Liang's family sat in the courtroom. Their faces were pale, eyes swollen from days of crying. Jamie's parents clung to each other, trembling. Silent tears rolled down their cheeks. Across the room, Wu kept her head bowed. She never looked at them, never spoke a word of apology. Her cold detachment deepened the family's anguish and fury. Outside the courthouse, Jamie's father addressed reporters. His voice was ragged, shaking with grief. That monster didn't just take Jamie's life. She took part of us. She stole our pride, our hope, our joy. She left a wound in our hearts that will never heal. Jamie was only 24. She had her whole life ahead of her. But that cold-blooded killer took our little girl, our angel. The news of Jamie's death sent shockwaves through the community. Crowdfunding campaigns quickly raised $45,000 in just days to help the family with funeral costs and other expenses. This case, born of a broken relationship and ending in blood, tore apart two families, stunned New York City, and forced painful conversations about jealousy, control, and intimate partner violence. It exposed the dark reality that love, twisted by possessiveness and obsession, can become a deadly weapon. Under the banner of love, some believe they own the lives of those they desire, that if they cannot keep them, they must destroy them. But real love is not control. It is not domination. It is not destruction. Jamie Liang should have been celebrating her graduation, starting her career, building a life. Instead, a bullet ended everything. Her story stands as a chilling reminder. When love curdles into jealousy and rage, it can become the most dangerous force of all.